This show is produced by Diversitat students and volunteers. So, if you'd like to be a part of our show or for more information about our courses, head to our website at 947thepulse.com. Organ donations can be one of those topics that are hard to discuss with loved ones. But in our next segment, we'll talk about how organ donations really can save lives.
Many Australians' lives have been touched by organ donation. We need more organs, and it's something that needs to be demystified, and you need to talk to your families too. Let's go and talk to the experts to find out a little bit more.
Organ and tissue donation is recognised worldwide as the most effective treatment for people who have got organ failure or have got diseases that require tissue transplants. At any given time, there are about 1,500 Australians waiting for the gift of life and for the change that an organ donation can give them. The waiting time for transplant can vary depending on, how severe or acute the need is. But in general, it can be for various organs anything from 1 week to several months to maybe even years. In cases, people needing organ transplants may die on a waiting list, or else they may have to come into hospital on repeated occasions or remain in hospital close to the time of requiring a transplant, or else they spend most of their lives coming back to hospitals every week for things like dialysis. Anybody can potentially become an organ donor, and ideas about age or how good or bad your organs might be are not necessarily the criteria which may determine whether you can or can't be an organ donor. Those criteria are often determined about where you pass away and how you pass away. So age is not a limit necessarily, nor is what you might perceive the condition of your organs. One person can effectively change the lives of more than 10 people with the gift of giving an organ or tissue. Last year there were 391 people who agreed to become organ donors, and they changed the lives of 1,122 people. The number of organ donors is increasing steadily over the last few years, but unfortunately so is the needs for those organs as well.
Well, what we want the community to do is actually find out about organ donation. So we want people to find out the facts, so discover all the information about it, whether they decide to become an organ donor or not, and you can do that by registering on the Australian Organ Donor Register. And then most importantly, we need people to discuss it with their families because they do have the final say. It's very important to talk about it when everybody's well and alive. What we find is if people have discussed it, their loved ones do respect their wishes at the time of death. There's lots of myths out there. Sometimes people think because they're a particular religion, the religion doesn't support organ donation. But we've done a lot of work with religious leaders over the last few years, and they've actually made statements, each religious leader, about how they do support organ and tissue donation.
Thanks for joining us on Pulse TV today, Peter. Can you tell us a bit about Ali, your sister?
My sister Alison recently passed away, aged 42. She was quite a community leader within Geelong, and she ran a company called Red Stick Communications, which was basically almost like a lobby group that managed to assist with the funding of a lot of big projects. For example, down at Simmons Stadium, part of the Ring Road, and so yeah, she had quite a big profile within the city of Greater Geelong and probably externally as well.
So unfortunate circumstances led to her death and ultimately organ donation.
Yeah, what happened was that I woke up one morning and received some news that Ali had been taken into hospital, and we arrived at the hospital and found out that the prognosis wasn't particularly great, and she'd had a massive brain hemorrhage, and at that time that she had to go through a 24-hour cycle of seeing how her condition would improve or deteriorate, and unfortunately it wasn't that great news. So then the staff at Bowen Health, the ICU, they came to us and said, have we considered organ donation and what were the family's thoughts of it? So we entered into a bit of a discussion, and we spoke about that, and we were unanimous in our call in saying that we're happy for those organs to be harvested. So.
Ali had registered for organ donation, but the family gets the final say on top of that, don't they?
Pretty much, and that's why it's important, like as a family and with your friends, to discuss the fact that you are registered as a donor, but it's also important that everyone around you is aware of that as well, because if you get to this worst case scenario that we were faced with, then the hard questions do get asked, and you have to make hard decisions. And in our case, it was a pretty easy decision because we knew the benefits of that. But yeah, just because you're registered, it's not a given that the family's going to commit to having those organs harvested. Yeah. The way that we were taken through the process, it was very respectful, and they engaged us really well, and that was a really important component for us to be able to make a good decision on behalf of Ali, because we knew after those discussions the benefits that were going to go on from that, you know. And so in some ways the positive thing for us and for our family and for me personally is the fact that we now know that so many families have benefited from our loss, and that's, you know, really it's a great thing. It's impacted on me personally far more than I thought that it would. I've been registered as a donor for a long time, but I don't really think I fully understood the implications and the benefits of it for the wider community. It's not just about me giving something, it's actually what's going on out there in the community. There's so few donors and so many people who need to receive those organ donations.
I'm Aaron Habgood, I'm 22 and I had a heart transplant 5.5 years ago at the Royal Children's Hospital. I was 16, I was playing sport and everything and started having dizzy spells and symptoms relating to my heart, and they couldn't work out that was my heart, and they finally worked out it was my heart causing all the problems, and I ended up getting diagnosed with aortic stenosis. So I had a narrow valve. They fixed my valve, and then 24 hours later in intensive care I had a heart attack. That was basically the reason I needed the transplant. My heart wasn't working anymore. I was on the waiting list for just over 3 months. It was hard, like it took me a while to learn how to walk again and everything like that, and then build strength. I ended up putting on 9 kilos of weight on the machine before my transplant, which was good. So, because I actually lost 18 kilo after the heart attack. And then, yeah, by the end of it I could walk around and do everything pretty much on the as much as I could on the life support. Like I come home on it a couple of times, and yeah, it was good. After 6 weeks I went back to normal pretty much. I started playing cricket 6 weeks later, surfing 6 weeks later, everything like that, and played football the following year. So.
What's very important is that people think about it, are aware of that it's out there, find out information, discuss with their family members. If people could discuss with their families and stuff about organ donation, basically it saved my life 100%, and if you could discuss it amongst family members, even friends, or if you could visit donatelife.gov.au.
It's a fantastic website. There's 20 different languages and brochures about religion, myths or facts. All the information's there.